When I was in New York City this past March, I went to a lot of different bookshops. Many of them I included in the vlog that I posted recently called New York City Bookshops and Tattoo Stops. I thought it would be fun today to do a little bit of a book haul showing you all the books I bought while I was in the city this past March. For the most part, these are all the books that I bought. I did buy a couple others, but I gave them as gifts to people, so they're not really included in this book haul. And many of the bookshops I went to, I didn't actually buy a book from. If I had bought a book from every single bookshop that I went to while I was in New York, it would have just been embarrassing trying to get my checked luggage back through on the airplane. On screen right now are all the bookshops that I went to when I was in New York City. Believe it or not, the list of shops I wanted to go to is longer than what's actually here. This is just what I managed to fit into while I was there. Hi, Howl. Filming self-tapes with this cat is ridiculous because if I leave him outside of my bedroom and close the door. Being a parent is hard. Okay, thank you. The first book I bought on my trip was The Novelist, a novel by Jordan Castro. I bought this book at Spoonbill and Sugartown booksellers in Brooklyn. This is the book I ended up spending a lot of my time reading when I was on my trip in New York. As you can see, I'm about, I want to say halfway through. I have not touched this book since I got back from New York. I'm on page 110 out of... This publication has 196, so I'm not far. Like, I'm past the halfway point. There's less than half of the book left, but I'm really struggling to stay with it. I picked it up because it's a book about a guy trying to write a book, and I'm just a sucker for those kind of books. I love books about authors, about writers, about bookstores. Some of my favorite books, like the Bookshop book by Jen Campbell, Book Lovers, Emily Henry is actually pretty good if you like a nice, lighthearted romance. It's saucy at times. Confessions of a Bookseller by Sean Blythe. All of these are books that I really like that are just kind of about writers and about books in general. So I thought this would be the vibe. It's not the vibe. It's just a bit much. It's just a bit much. Not my favorite book, but I'll finish it eventually. Hello? Come here. I went to a few other bookshops while I was in Brooklyn that same day, but the next bookshop that I went to and I bought a book from was Molasses Books, where I bought a copy of Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. My friend Kevin Bundy is a huge fan of Ernest Hemingway. I think I read one of Hemingway's books for the first time earlier this year. My cousin gifted me a copy of Farewell to Arms a couple years ago, and I read it this year after talking Hemingway with Kevin, and he just sang his praises. I haven't started this one yet. I think I've still got a ways to go before I think I'm at a place of appreciation for Hemingway, but Kevin mentioned that this is one of his favorite books by Ernest Hemingway, so I picked this up while I was at Molasses because it was pretty cheap, and the bookshop had really cool vibes. It had like a bar in the corner, some tables, and just the walls were covered from floor to ceiling in books. It was a good spot. If you're ever in Brooklyn and you're near Molasses Books, I recommend. The next bookshop that I bought a book from was one of my favorite bookstores the entire time I was in New York. Books Are Magic. It just had great vibes. I just loved that shop so much. Actually, a photo I took of it on my trip, I put in the New York vlog. And the book that I bought while I was there was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. So Books Are Magic. They are located in Brooklyn. I really wanted... Howl. You're getting kicked out. I'm kicking you out. You're done. You're done. You're getting kicked out. You're gonna wait outside. I give it less than 30 seconds before he's meowing at the door. Like many bookstores, they had a staff picks wall, and this was on it. This book itself is just about a young girl growing up in Brooklyn, as far as I can tell. I haven't read it yet. I've barely even opened it. Like, it's got that... Can you hear that? Like, it's still got that fresh book feel. Is that ASMR? Did I just make ASMR? Am I an ASMR channel now? From what I understand, this book just seems like a love letter to Brooklyn and the city of New York itself, which sounded very enticing to me. Okay, now, this next bookstore, it's one of the oldest in New York City, and it's where I spent a lot, if not most, of my money. I'm talking about the Strand. We spent like at least an hour, if not two, just roaming this bookstore. It is massive. If you're ever in New York, go to the Strand if you can. It's one of the coolest bookstores in the world. It's just miles and miles of books across like 3 or 4 stories. I'll show you the non-book things I bought there first. I bought this cute little Strand bookshop truck, like a Hot Wheels kind of car as a fun little thing to put on a shelf. I love a diner. I love me a dingy diner, so I got this nice little like diner coffee mug. And you can even see on it 18 miles of books. Like this place was massive. I also got myself a little toque, or I guess Americans would call it a beanie. I got myself a little Strand Books toque. It's nice. I wear it a lot in that vlog from that trip. I know Iz got herself a tote bag. She got herself some books there as well. I bought a book for my grandfather and I bought a book for my roommate. So like I said, we spent a lot of time there. We browsed a lot of books. There were a lot of books I left behind, but one of the first books I saw that caught my eye was 100 Saturdays. Oh, it's my receipt. My receipt is inside this book. Okay, so I can actually tell you everything that I bought. Oh, right, I bought a patch too. I got this cute little patch of a cat in a hot air balloon, New York City. I also bought some postcards when I was at the Strand, as well as Books Are Magic, but all of those I mailed out before we left the city at the end of that weekend. Can you hear him? Can you hear him meowing? Now imagine trying to film self-tapes in the hopes of seeking employment, and all you hear as you try to dramatically act into the distance is meow. This book is about a man named Michael Frank meeting a woman named Stella Levi in her Greenwich Village apartment, just seeking to ask her some questions about a Jewish community she lived in called Rhodes years ago when she was young, and they spend 100 Saturdays together just talking, and he learns about her life and all the things she experienced and struggled through and celebrated. The book is very much structured in a way where every Saturday that Michael spends with Stella has its own dedicated, like, I don't even want to call them chapters, because you can see like 30 extends to here and then goes on, but 31 goes for a few pages before you reach 32. I walked past this book like 4 or 5 times on one of the tables in the Strand, and eventually I was like, no, I keep walking past this, I keep coming back to this table, I'm getting this book. You may notice a theme with the books that I'm showing you, but a lot of them are kind of about New York and the New York lifestyle. This next book is no exception. Writers Unloving and Leaving New York, Goodbye to All That. It's a collection of essays from different New York writers who have either lived or left New York. What can I say? It's got some of my 2 favorite things right now, apparently. It's about writers, and it's about New York. I don't even remember if this was on a shelf or if this was on one of their tables at the Strand, but it just immediately caught my eye. Writer... Oh my god, he hasn't stopped meowing for like 3 minutes. I'm doing a thing. I need you to respect that, please. I think we can resume filming now. I think I have permission to resume filming. And the third and final book I bought for myself while at the Strand was Damn Fine Story. This is... I don't know what this is. I haven't really touched this book. I haven't really opened it yet. Mastering the Tools of a Powerful Narrative. It's a book on how to write books. It's a book on how to write stories. I love storytelling, I love reading, and I really love writing. So my hope is that I will read this someday, and when I read it, I will be a better writer, and I'll write great stories. Right? Isn't that the dream? You know? To write a damn fine story. And finally, this last bookshop that I bought books at was not the last bookshop I went to this whole trip. Kinokinia, a manga store within Manhattan itself. I bought 2 books there. The first was volume 1 of Spy X Family. Actually, I think it's just Spy Family. My friends get mad at me when I call it Spy X Family. I love the anime, and I've been really into reading manga this last 2 years. I bought this because the story's great, and I wanted to see the source material. Some of my favorite mangas I've read these last couple years are the Promised Neverland series and Witch Hat Atelier. I got through the Promised Neverland in like a month. I breezed through that series. It was so good. I really loved it. I'll watch the anime eventually, but I hear the manga's better. And then Witch Hat Atelier is just one of my favorite things I'm reading right now. I think volume 11 comes out this month, and I'm very excited for it. And then I bought Animal Crossing New Horizons Deserted Island Diary Volume 1. Some of the Nintendo mangas are actually solid. Like, I love the Pokemon Adventures manga. All the Legend of Zelda mangas are really good, and I hear the Splatoon one actually might be good too. This one, not as much. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it might have to do with just my sense of humor. I also think this really is targeted more towards children, and I'm not a child. I read this one on the flight home back to Toronto. It was a nice, easy read. It's not super long, and like, I don't know, if you've read manga or graphic novels, you know how quick a read these can be compared to other books. Each chapter is its own story with the same cast of characters getting up to hijinks. It's not really a linear story where it's like what happens in chapter 1 will affect what happens in chapter 2. It's just a series of hijinks this group of friends get up to on their deserted island. I might buy the next couple volumes. I think there's 3 volumes total, but I'm not in a rush. I think it's the kind of thing where if I ever buy the next volume, it's because it's like on sale or in a discount bin. If you love Animal Crossing though, or have a kid that loves Animal Crossing, it's good. I just don't think it's my sense of humor. Those are all the books I bought while I was in New York this past March. Bookshop browsing is one of my favorite things to do when I travel, when I go on vacation, or when I go places. I love popping by bookshops, especially local ones in those cities or in those communities. There are still bookstores that I'm discovering all the time here in Toronto, which is very exciting. Currently, I'm reading I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Also, I'm rereading The Lightning Thief. This is my childhood copy. I'm between these 2 books right now. Well, really, I'm between like 7 books right now. But these 2 are the ones I'm reading the most avidly at the moment. When I'm done these, I think I might pick up another one of my New York books. If you've read any of the books that I bought while I was in New York, let me know which one you recommend I pick up next, which one of these I should read next. I like books. I have a lot of books. I like talking about books. There's even more books on the other side of this camera here. So I hope you enjoyed talking books with me if you made it this far into the video. That is my March 2023 New York City Book Haul, filmed in June of 2023. And look at that, I made it to the end of the video and he's finally fallen asleep. He's finally a sleepy boy. Sleepy boy's done meowing. He's finally settled. And I've finished filming. If you like, you can click right here. This is the vlog from that trip. If you haven't watched it yet, I recommend. It was a fun trip. It was a good time. You can maybe see some of the footage from those bookstores that I went to. Also, down in the description, my Ko-Fi page, if you want to support, buy me a tea. You'll get access to the photos that I took from that trip, and a few of those photos were of some of the bookstores mentioned in this video, and some of the bookstores that I didn't mention. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.